All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all glory and praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakodash, the honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, honors and salutations to the hopeful elect, pushing this word in true sincerity. Or this is the brother Tawab Kha from GMS Los Angeles / Inland Empire, come back with another video in the spirit. And once again, Tawadi Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, for opening my eyes to his truth, allow me to wake up another day and putting the spirit on me to do another lesson in hopes to edify the hopeful elect. Okay, so in this video, what we're going to is Sirach, the 2nd chapter. Okay, also known as Ecclesiasticus, the 2nd chapter, and the Apocrypha. And this is a beautiful chapter, you know, for brothers that's new and for brothers that's been around, you know, as a reminder of why we're here. You know, remind us, you know, this truth is not easy. It's not meant to be easy. You know, and it's always good to go over these scriptures, you know, to keep us in the right perspective, man. You know, because it's easy to get distracted with the shit that's in this world. It's easy to get caught up in these weak ass emotions. You know, it's easy to give your mind over to Satan, because Satan is going hard on Jake's mind right now, man. You know, Satan wants Jake to totally give themselves over to the flesh. You know, I mean, all of us. You know, this is a spiritual fight. You know, and that word fight means struggle. So every day we're, you know, it's a tug of war with the flesh and the spirit. You know. And when you look at things from a worldly perspective, you're always going to be in that what's the word? You're always going to be in that woe is me spirit, because you're not looking at things from a spiritual perspective. You're looking at things from a carnal perspective. You know, and that's why it's important. This, you know, to be close to this word, man, be engulfed in this word, you know, because this world is designed to try to break your spirit. You know, this world is designed to constantly make you feel that you're not worthy, to constantly make you feel that you're not good enough. Okay, if you don't have these so-called worldly goods, then you're not a man. Okay, if you don't have these things, then you have no value. You know, and we constantly fighting these things on a regular basis, man. You know, but you know, being in this truth, you know, knowing our purpose is to serve Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, you know, we gotta say fuck that, man. Okay, brothers matter, man. You know, all the apostles, elders, brothers on down matter. You know, what we doing, this ain't no light thing that we're doing. Okay, the Lord ain't called, you know, weaklings, man. Okay, the Lord ain't looking for weaklings. You know, even though, you know, brothers, you know, we all are going through shit, man. We all dealing with different trials. Some brothers more than others, you know. But the Lord, you know, this thing ain't for the weak. You know, this ain't when I say the weak, I'm talking about the unbelievers. Okay, somebody that doesn't have no faith whatsoever. The Lord ain't dealing with somebody that's like that, man. Okay. And this is why we got to constantly go, you know, read these scriptures such as these, you know, to keep that perspective there, man. You know, because it's easy to get off track, you know, getting caught up in the affairs of this life. Because, you know, Satan going hard right now, man. Satan attacking, you know, brothers' minds, you know. Satan attacking brothers' health. Satan attacking brothers through these demons at their job. You know, that's why the Lord gave us, you know, this word, you know, these scriptures that comfort us, and also the brotherhood. You know, brothers comfort one another. Brothers build each other up. You know, so yeah, that's pretty. I don't, you know, slacking for the long opening, but you know, I just want to get that point across, man. So I'm just gonna read the Ecclesiasticus, the second chapter, and I'm gonna, you know, Lord willing, this be edifying to you sincere brothers as well as you few sisters, but mainly to you brothers. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the first verse. This Ecclesiasticus chapter 2, verse 1. It says, "My son, if thou come to serve the Lord, prepare thy soul from temptation." Okay, so off top, it's telling us that we have to prepare our souls for temptation. We're going to be tried. We're going to be tested. Okay, so there's going to be times where we're going to feel uncomfortable. There's going to be times where we're going to feel challenged. Okay, and it can come through many different angles. You know, it can come through the family. It can come through the job. It can come through your mind. It can come through your physical ailments, wherever the case may be. You know, or it can come through the brotherhood. You know, sometimes things happen between brothers, and that could be challenging. You know, but but we have to endure. Okay, we have to endure these things. You know, because as it says in Acts the 14th chapter, through much tribulation shall we enter into the kingdom of the Lord. Okay. Second verse, it says, "Set thy heart aright and constantly endure, and make not haste in the time of trouble." And that's very, very important. Okay, not to make haste in the time of trouble, because that's what happens with a lot of people. And a lot of people feel like they're being overwhelmed with something. You know, their mind starts to race. You know, they get impatient. They start doing things out of desperation. They don't think before they act, and then they end up making their situations worse. You know, and we don't want to do that. You know, that's the last thing we want to do. You know, when we find ourselves going through adversity. Okay, that's when we're supposed to cleave unto the Lord. You know, that's when we're supposed to lean upon the Lord and the brotherhood. You know, that's why these things are here. All right, it says, "Set thy heart aright," which is the mind, constantly endure, and make not haste in the time of trouble. Cleave unto him and depart not away, that thou mayest be increased at thy last end. Right. So we're not supposed to depart away. Okay, no matter what we go through in our life. Okay, like it says, man, prepare thy soul for temptation, man. So there's going to be trials that's going to take place, but we have to, like it says, we have to constantly endure and depart not away. Okay, because like it says, is, you know, if we endure, we'll be increased at the last end. Okay. And we're on that journey. We're on the journey right now. This is a spiritual journey. You know, the race ain't over until, you know, someone crosses the finish line, man. You know, and the finish line is within distance, man. You know, you see what's going on. It's war in the air. You see Trump. They just invaded Venezuela. They captured the Venezuela president. And he's Trump talking about, you know, next is Colombia, you know. So a lot of things are happening, man. They you know, they got the 6G, you know, talking about implantable devices. You know that's leading to the MOTB. You know, so hey, we that finish line is within distance, man. We just got to keep pushing, man. You know, we just got to keep pushing, brothers. We just got to hold on a little longer. The Lord is almost here, man. You know, it says, "Whatsoever is brought upon thee take cheerfully and be patient when thou art changed to a lower state. Now that's easier said than done, but these are the things that we have to do, man. You know, we have to, and we have no other choice. You know, what else are we going to do? You know, we have to endure these things, man. You know, we got to be patient. All right. It says, for gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity. You see that? Acceptable men are tried in the furnace of adversity. So that's how the Lord is going to prove those that are have faith, man. That's how the Lord is going to see who's sincere and who's not sincere, man. Okay? That's when you know a friend. A friend is born for adversity, man. Okay? That's when you see somebody's true colors. All right? It says, believe in him and he will help thee. Order thy way aright and trust in him. Ye that fear the Lord, wait for his mercy and go not aside lest ye fall. You see that? And that's what a lot of times when someone that doesn't exhibit faith, when they go through something, you know, they want to be alone. You know, they want to be left alone. They want, you know, and you know, and when you know, they don't want to be bothered. You know, they become irritable. You know, everything irritates them. You know, and that's what happens with individuals that, you know, that come into this truth, they catch hell, and they become offended. Okay, they become offended at this word, which really they're offended with Yahweh Shai, man. Okay, you know, this word starts to irritate them. You know, what once was something that they enjoyed. This was like like honey. It was honey to them, but once was sweet to them, and they loved doing this. Now is a burden. Now it's bitter. You know, which that's what comes with the truth. You know, things are going to get bitter at times, but I'm talking about these individuals. They become bitter. They become bitter about all the things that taking place, even though the scriptures tell us that we're going to go through trials and tribulations. But, you know, these individuals, they forget those things, you know, and they become offended, you know, and they become unfruitful. You know, they stop doing the work. They stop showing up for camp. You know, they just go right back into the world, you know, or they get kicked out because they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, man. You know, they look for any excuse, you know, to basically depart from the faith. And we don't want to be in that spirit, man. That's a scary place to be. Okay? It says, 8th verse, it says, ye that fear the Lord, believe him, and your reward shall not fail. Ye that fear the Lord, hope for good and for everlasting joy and mercy. Look at the generations of old and see, did ever any trust in the Lord and was confounded? Or did any abide in his fear and was forsaken? Or whom did he ever despise that called upon him? Right. So when you read Hebrews, the 11th chapter, it gives you examples of our foreparents or forefathers exhibiting faith, man. Okay. And just when you read that chapter, you will see how they exhibited faith and how the Lord was with them, man. Okay. And it's no different today. All right. You think the Lord is going to forsake those that really fear him, that really, love him, that's, doing the best that they can, that's really genuine, sincere in their heart. You really think the Lord's going to forsake them? Hell no, the Lord ain't going to forsake those that fear him and love him and call upon him in their time of trouble. The Lord is going to be with them, man. Okay, just like the days of old. We just gotta have faith, man. We just gotta believe that, man. Really got to believe this, man. This thing, we don't, when we go out there and teach this word, we not just, we're not going through the motions, man. This ain't something we just do on Saturday and then rest of the week is whatever. We really got to believe this, man. Okay. All right. It says, for the Lord is full of compassion and mercy, long suffering and very pitiful, and forgiveth sins, and saveth in the time of affliction. You see that? Lord is bearing with all of us, man. As long as we're sincere, as long as we're obedient, okay, as long as we're, doing the things that's pleasing to him, man. That's what this thing is all about. It's all about serving Yahweh Shem Yahushai, man, and being sincere about it, man. Okay? All right, it says, woe be to the fearful hearts and faint hands and the sinner that goeth two ways, right? So you fearful, in your mind, you that's a doubt, that's a mind that's full of doubt. Okay, and you got weak, which faint hands is talking about weak, somebody is weak. Okay? You always, this is somebody that's always any little adversity come their way, they ready to throw in the towel. They ready to give up. Any little thing can just shake you, shake some, any little thing can shake this person. The basically, this ain't what I signed up for. That's a weak ass individual, man. And Lord ain't dealing with no weak ass individual, man. Okay, weak meaning no faith, man, no belief. Okay, because you can have muscles, you can be strong as a goddamn bull. You could be a damn bodybuilder, but if your mind, if you don't have your faith if your faith ain't there, you're weak. Okay, it says, woe be to fearful hearts and faint hands, and the sinner that goeth two ways. Woe unto him that is faint hearted, for he believeth not, therefore shall he not be defended. Right. So if you don't have no faith in the Lord, okay, there's no trust there with the Lord. The Lord ain't gonna defend somebody like that, man. Okay, because it even tells you that in Hebrews the 11th chapter. Without faith, it is impossible to please the Heavenly Father. If we come to the Heavenly Father, we gotta believe that the Heavenly Father is gonna deliver us, man. Okay, we're only as strong as our faith is, man. Okay, and that's why we read these. It's good to read the history, of our people. We read about just for example, you read about King David, you read about Gideon, you read about Joshua. Okay, you read about Job, just to give a few names. Reading those accounts, reading those stories, gives you that comfort. It gives you that inspiration, man, to continue, because a lot of our people, when you go back into the history, they had to deal with adversity, man. Okay, they had to deal with challenging times, man. And then there were times where the Lord exalted our people, So everything in these scriptures is written for our learning, and our comfort. Okay, so that's why it says in the 10th verse to look at the generations of old, man. Okay, because there's nothing new under the sun, man. Our people was dealing with adversity back then, and we're gonna be dealing with adversity now. But guess what? The Lord was with them back then, and the Lord's gonna be with us today. All right, continuing. It says, woe unto you that have lost patience And what will ye do when the Lord shall visit you? Right. These are the individuals that turn their back, that go back into the world. You know, you turn your back on the Lord. What you going? What you individuals going to do? And this is scary, man. This can happen to any of us, man. That's why we gotta be humble, man. You know, ain't no room for pride, man. That foolish pride. That's not of the Lord. That's not of the truth, man. Okay. It says, they that fear the Lord will not disobey his word, and they that love him will keep his ways. They that fear the Lord will seek that which is well pleasing unto him, and they that love him shall be filled with the law. You see that? Okay. And love is the action, man, which is the keeping of the commandments. Okay, to the best of our ability. You know, the commandments that's within, you know, that's doable in this society we keep. Okay. That's why, you know, we have a dietary law. Okay. We have that's why we brothers have beards. Brothers that can grow their beard, brothers keep their beard. Brothers don't shave their beard. Okay. Brothers don't shave their head, you know. That's a token. That's us, you know, brothers showing faith towards Yahweh Shemi Yahushai, man. And that's love. Showing love toward Yahweh Shemi Yahushai by observing those things, okay? It says, they that fear the Lord will prepare their hearts and humble their souls in his sight. So we gotta humble ourselves, man. There's gonna be times where we're gonna go through things and it's gonna hurt, you know. It's gonna hurt, you know, because we're in this flesh. But we have to humble ourselves before the Lord and submit ourselves to his will. You know, wherever the Lord wills, we just gotta deal with it, man. You know, the Lord knows, you know. And if we do endure, it's gonna be well worth it, man. Because everything that we so-called lose on this side, if we endure to the end, you know, we're going to get all that back and then some anyway. Okay? All right, it says, they that fear the Lord will prepare their hearts and humble their souls in his sight, saying, we will fall into the hands of the Lord and not into the hands of men. For as his majesty is, so is his mercy. And that's how great, because you know how great the Lord's majesty is. That's how great his mercy is, man. You know, so we just have to keep that in mind, you know. So everything that we go through is not to destroy us, is to bring us closer to Yahweh Shemi Yahushai, man. And when you look at it from that perspective, you know, it's easy. You know, it won't be easy to fall into those weak ass emotions, man. You know, but yeah, like I said, I just wanted to put that out there real quick. Like I said, I pray this was edifying to you sincere brothers, as well as you few sisters out there. You stay strong, keep fighting, man. We're almost out this bitch. So with that, I'm going to give all glory and praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, HaKodash, the honors to the apostles, and the elders of Great Millstone. Honors and salutations to the whole